Hi there, and welcome to Scheduling Fate. I'm Jamie Magee. I'm an author, astrologer, and I love helping those around me unlock the magic within them and hidden in everyday moments. Here at Scheduling Fate, you're going to find grounded insight to help you co create with the beautiful, unfolding story of your life. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hi there, and welcome back to Scheduling Fate, where we love to explore intuition, insight, and how you can co create with the universe using your personal astrology so that you can thrive. Today, we are going to talk about change and powerful steps that usually are involved inside of the process of change, the growth cycle, and how your one of a kind astrology and energy may or may not handle the growth cycles that you're invited into in present day or at any point in your life. So, before we get into this, I want to take a step back and explain where the idea of this episode originated in the first place. So I tend to attract or surround myself with positive mindset and thought leading information, whether that is podcasts, books, old and new. I love the old ones, social media, and of course, real life fleshy people that I get to hang out with every day. And as I listen to advice, if it really lands with me, I'm like, you know what, that is right on cue. I love it. I love how I can take that and synthesize it and use it in a process that I'm working with. I always find myself pairing it with astrology. In other words, if the advice lands with me and I know it's solid, I know that before I can do my Gemini thing and share it with people, I have to adjust it to fit the energy that I'm speaking to so that I know that it actually lands. Now, don't get me wrong, I do not have everyone in my life's chart memorized, but at the very least, I will know their sun sign or their rising sign, which is definitely enough to wrap some old and new age wisdom up in a nice little package of insight and say, hey, I learned this. This may help you through the process that you're looking at. And of course, I do this with my one on one clients. Those of you who are clients, you already know this. But no matter what you're facing, there is a way that your chart is speaking to the energy. For instance, if you have a lot of fixed energy or fixed energy on the angles in your chart, this would be Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, change is hard. And sometimes deciding what to do next is very hard because you use so much discernment in the decisions that you're making. If you have a lot of cardinal energy or they're on the angles, this is Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Launching into something new is not hard, but getting your feet underneath you and getting something solid is. The mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, you guys live in the spectrum of change. You love it, but you can easily get stuck in the middle. You could get lost in the details, lost in the information, learning something, or the feelings, or even the scope of what needs to happen. So I'm always considering this as I'm passing information to clients or people that, of course, I love and adore. And I do this because each of those placements are going to hear these action steps in a different way. For instance, when you hear that you need to get out of your comfort zone, for some of you, that's grabbing a microphone and starting a podcast. For others, that's liking or commenting a post on social media or smiling at someone in public. It's different for everyone. If I told you to listen to your intuition, some of you may check in with your emotions. Others may look for a mindset or logic or physical signs around you to say, you know what, this is what I need to do. You get the idea. Everyone's energy speaks to them differently. So the other day, as I was sharing a book or a resource, I can't even remember, with someone, the thought crossed my mind that this thing that I do unconsciously, because I purposely paired this information with this person because I knew that it was quick and it was detailed and it was something they could grab and run with. The thought crossed my mind that the way that I do this unconsciously could be helpful for all of you. And of course, the way that my chart works, I have this big wide scope. I go really big and then I have to narrow it in. So the first recording of this episode was over an hour long. The blog post that I wrote for it was to the point where it was no longer a post, but closer to a workshop or even a course. So I took a couple of days and I pared it down. I really sat with the idea about how I could bring this process to you but still give you some insight to go a little bit deeper if you wanted to understand how you work with growth or where you are. Because sometimes perspective is all you need. Inevitably, one way or another, every single one of you is working with change and you're working with it on several different levels. Right. So as I pared down this episode, I made a list of 7 steps that we typically take toward change. Whether that is unlocking your purpose, starting a new career, ending a career, beginning a relationship, ending one, a new path of self discovery, or any kind of healing. And then I connected those steps to the planetary energy. Because under it all, the main step that I do when I pair this information, like here, I think you could really use this. I'm thinking of the planets as teachers. Can you hear my Sagittarius rising talking? Because each of the planets are teachers, they carry a lesson. And though they may be in different signs and different houses, having different conversations with other planets in your one of a kind natal chart, there is still an underlying archetypal lesson that they are trying to teach you. And some planets have a reputation of being delightful and easy to work with, like Venus and Jupiter, but even they have a shadow side. And then again, we have planets like Saturn, Mars, or Pluto. Everyone kind of grimaces when they see them, but those planets have very powerful and provocative lessons that lead to massive changes in our life for the better in the long run. Those are the changes that we will remember. Those are the ones that define us. And of course, I couldn't help myself. I had to still expand on this idea about how you can work with this energy. So if you go to schedulingfate.com, you click on the link underneath this podcast, you're going to find a summary of everything I'm talking about. You're also going to find a guided way to take your chart. And if you don't have one, you can get a free one at schedulingfate.com and look at this information. And sometimes you're like, you know what? I don't like change, but this is how I can approach it. I think that process would really help you as you reflect on a growth cycle and where you are right now. I do think that this could be helpful for everyone, but especially for creatives and entrepreneurs or anyone navigating an identity level shift. So if you know someone like that that would be interested, please don't be shy. Take a second and hit share on this episode. And again, I want to emphasize that we are always experiencing a level of growth, and sometimes we're beginning and ending in the middle of things at certain times. There's an area of our life that is just taking off, like our career, but we're having trouble at home. Or maybe we're having trouble with something in our mindset, but everything looks good on the outside, or the reverse. Everything looks troubled outside, but we're actually reinventing ourselves from the ground up. But my goal is that after this episode, I will give you the keys to help you recognize where you are right now in your growth cycle, what your teacher is, and how you can lean into that teacher. What is your natural entryway into engaging the path that you're on? And what you can do or consider when that path ahead is not aligned with your strengths, but instead energizes or challenges you to step outside of your comfort zone to engage this change. All right, so as we step into this, I want you to take a second to think about what is changing in your life or what you want to change in your life or what has just changed. And as you're holding that in your mind, think about these steps. Now, the 7 steps that I have surmised, the first one is awareness and awakening. The second step is you're learning something, you're understanding something. The third is that you're taking action and you're experimenting with this new thing that you've learned. The next step is struggle and mastery. Then we move into integration and reflection. And then we move into thriving and embodiment. And the final step, reseeding and release to go back into this growth cycle again, because growth cycles are not linear, they're cyclical. You're always going to be building and changing. It's not a one and done kind of thing. No matter what area of your life you're considering, it's not one and done. It's cyclical. You're going to build on what you have already created. And sometimes you will have to start again, but you're going to continue to build. Now, let's take this a little bit deeper and pair it with the planets. And I want you to keep this in mind. Hold this that your entire natal chart, all of your energy is always engaged. Some energies may be louder at certain points. And even though that I'm pointing out a particular planet, when you're on step one, everybody has a say in this. There's just a louder teacher than others helping you through that process. All right. So step one, awareness and awakening. So the planets that really engage this energy would be the sun, your vital force, the moon, and Venus. Venus is here because she stirs desire. It starts to awaken. I need to make this change. So the question that you have at this first stage is, what am I becoming aware of? What desires are emerging from the fog? This is working, or I want to do this. I don't want to do this. The theme of this step is the veil lifts. You begin to see a truth. And what it could feel like is being restless, or there's a moment of clarity, a question rising inside of you. Something is no longer working and you can feel it, and you're getting to the point where you cannot ignore it. The purpose of this step is to help you recognize what is no longer aligned and name what you desire. That's the hard part, actually saying, I want that. This is the start of all change. You're becoming conscious of what needs to happen. What am I becoming aware of? What desires are emerging from the fog? Okay, so step two, learning and understanding. Our teachers, our guides during this step
are Mercury and Jupiter, and Venus is here too. So the question that we have is what information, insights, or teachings do I feel aligned with inside of my heart? And the theme of this energy is seeking clarity, reframing your beliefs, and opening up your mind. So it feels like you're going down a lot of rabbit holes. You're looking for synchronicities. Your mind is opening to conversations, and you have a lot of excitement, but it's mixed with doubt. Some of your beliefs are being shaken because you're gaining more data points, more information, or you're looking at the wide open horizon. Mercury likes to get into the details. Jupiter likes to find the wisdom and look at the scope of things. The purpose of this step is to help you gather insight and information and to expand your perception and to see the situation with fresh eyes. And of course, with Venus lingering out here, it's not only chasing that desire, I wanna know this, but you're checking in with your values. Is this aligned with me or is this not aligned with me? Does that sit right with my soul? Do I feel like I could put roots down in what matters there, or can I balance with it? Because Venus rules both Taurus and Libra. One is very grounded in values and long term, and one wants harmony and balance. Does this new information disturb in a good way or in a bad way? Now, the third step towards a cycle of growth is where you need to take action and experiment. And the planets that are going to teach you and guide you through this are going to be Mars and Uranus. Now, I think Venus is always going to ask you to check your values and your alignment. The moon is going to be in there too. Like, how do you emotionally feel about this? But when you take or hear the words action and experiment, Mars and Uranus are at the top of the classroom. What action feels both brave and aligned with my values? In other words, you make the phone call, you step into the job interview, you take that leap of faith, and you're on the other side of something, and you're still feeling the adrenaline pump in your mind or your body or your spirit, and you're like, "Yes, I did it." So the theme of this phase is trying something new, breaking out of a pattern that felt really restless and edgy and uncomfortable, like the shoes were too tight, or I needed to get into something where I felt like I could really be me. So this energy, it feels a lot like a big embodiment of courage, but also discomfort and a little bit of rebellion because you may be breaking away from a tribe that you've been a part of and stepping into something new. You could find a thrill in saying no or saying yes for the first time in trying on new behaviors or identities. This is the new me. This is who I've always been, or this is who I'm becoming. And the purpose of this step is to embody change through action, to test new energies even if you're unsure of the outcome. So, what action feels bold and aligned with my new truth? And this is something that you're going to have to experiment with because you may go way over. Like, for instance, I tend to do this with my Jupiter energy. I go way outside the boundaries. Then I have to pare it down to get to the main point. And that's where my Gemini comes in. It's a balance between the two. But you may go way too far in experimenting. And then you have to dial it back in. Or maybe you just kind of put your toe in the water and the universe says, take the plunge and you have to go in a different direction. Your chart is going to be different and the experience will be different for all of you, but you have to take the action and experiment. And Mars has got a ton of courage. He'll give you all you need. Now, the fourth step on the growth cycle is struggle and mastery. Your teachers, your guides through this are going to be Saturn and Pluto. Now, Saturn and Pluto do not have the best reputation, but I promise you, they're the teachers that you're never going to forget. And they're going to give you everything you desire if you put the work in. So, the question that we walk with at stage 4 is what am I being asked to master or surrender? And where am I reclaiming my power and my value? Sit with that. Where are you reclaiming your power and your value? So, the theme of this stage is meeting resistance and choosing growth over comfort. I want you to let that settle. Choosing growth over comfort. And that really lays beautifully over the prior step of taking action and going outside of your comfort zone. So, this energy, it can feel like old patterns are resurfacing, or you have a lot of internal battles or external challenges. It's a test. This is where you may feel like you have imposter syndrome, or you have this whole new image and you're super happy, and you run into your ex, or you see an old post from a friend, or you come across something that reminds you of who you used to be and you're feeling like, I don't know if I'm ready to be this new person because that's really who I am. That's where I came from. And the thing is, this cycle doesn't care about where you came from because everything is cyclical. We're growing into something new. The purpose of this step is to help you confront what keeps you locked in, keeps you stuck in a pattern that is no longer serving you. It wants you to reclaim your power, to alchemize all of the wisdom, all of the experience that you have gained through the wrong turns, through the pathways that you regret, but were actually the greatest teachers and where you're going. So the question you ask yourself at step 4 is, what am I being asked to master and surrender? And if you can identify that, and if you can lean into the hard things, you're going to find a beautiful, powerful structure that you can build on for lifetimes. Now, step 5 is a little bit easier. It's integration, it's reflection. This is that high that you feel after a really hard workout or after you accomplished something big, you gave the presentation at work or you had a great date or something. Like, this is that, where am I? How do I go from here? And your teachers here are the moon, and I would say Venus, because Venus is going to anchor you in your new values. And the moon is going to give you a bit of a reality check. It's going to ask you, what do I know now about what I need, love, and value? And how do I nurture this new version of myself? Every one of you have a very unique moon and you have a unique way of nurturing yourself. And you may have had to go outside of that at certain points during this growth process. But this says, what do I need to nurture and how can I support it? The theme of this step is emotional anchoring and honoring the process. This is where you get to look back and say, man, that was hard, but it was worth it. Or that was, I never thought I'd get out of that, but I'm not there anymore. And you have the opportunity at this step to appreciate the magic of the universe, to understand that it's all woven into something that's leading to something that you can't even imagine. And this step, it feels like a deep breath. It feels tender. It's going to be a little bit tender where your body relaxes. You may face grief for what has left or is ending, but you're also going to feel this gratitude for what is starting to spur up in your life. And the purpose of it is to help you emotionally process your journey and integrate the lessons and embody this shift at a soul deep level, because that's when you really own it. That's when you're able to break patterns and recognize that, hey, you may be in a different phase, in a different place, but I have aced this lesson and I'm going to ace it again and I'm going to level up. So the question you ask at this level is, what do I know about who I am and what I need and what I value? Now, the sixth step of this process is what we all work for, and that's thriving and embodiment and magnetism. And your one of a kind teacher at this step is Venus, because she's really feeling in her vibes right now. It's, how do I live? How do I love and create from a place of inner alignment first and foremost? This stage reflects the law of attraction at its fullest. You've done the work, you've cleared the path, and now you attract effortlessly. Things just fall to you. People call you up. You're no longer chasing. It comes to you because you are aligned with a vibration that really embodies this new version of you. You don't have to seek it anymore. It's all around you. And Venus is not a passive teacher. She is living in embodiment. She wants you to hold your truth, your pleasure, your self worth, and continue to build that power of attraction. So the theme that you feel is living from love, living from pleasure, and recognizing very easily, that is my person. I am aligned with this. I'm aligned with this situation. I'm not. The clarity is a new kind of high that you walk with. It feels like you have confidence. You have peace in your body and peace in your mind. It's a beautiful new normal that you're sitting with. And the purpose of this is to inhabit and transform the whole process that you've been working with, to live in the alignment that you have been seeking and radiate in that truth. And some of the questions you may have is, how do I express and create and receive from my most authentic self? And the thing is, most of us would want to stop right there and live in that bliss. But this is a growth cycle. It's cyclical. Whatever you have built to this point, at some point, it's going to need to either grow or disintegrate to move into a new story. And that's how we get to the final step. And a lot of us are at this point collectively because we've had so many outer planets get ready to leave signs they've been in for a long time and move into new energies. So we are all feeling this last step, which is reseeding, release, and return. So some of the planets that I would say would be your teachers right now would be the dark moon. This is the phase right before the new moon, and of course, Pluto. The theme of this stage is letting go, returning to stillness, and getting ready to plant again. So it feels like a pause, a letting go of what no longer fits, even from the new version of you, a sacred reset that you're going through, or a sacred rest. Who am I? Where am I going now? And the purpose is to release what didn't grow in the last growth cycle, to honor the cycle that you just went through and prepare the soil for new seeds. Transformation is never a one time event. This is a sacred reset, this final step. What am I ready to release? What wisdom will guide me as I plant the next seeds. Very interesting growth cycle. Now, again, all of that information, I know that was a lot to digest, is in the article on the link underneath the broadcast here. And I do want to take it just a little bit deeper. Right now, we know the steps and we know what planets lean into those actions, but not all the planetary energies are going to be the same, as I mentioned before. The element they're in, the modality they're in, the house they're in are all going to layer in how this energy is received. And this is going to layer in not only by the transits where the energy is right now, but also your natal chart. So there's a lot of different layers that you have to consider if you really want to go deep, and you can go deep. Astrology has a lot of layers, but we're going to keep it as surface as we can here. But I do want to open up your mind about how this energy could feel different in those steps. Because for some of you, as you were listening to those steps, you're like, yeah, I'd love that. I'm going to do my Saturn and Pluto. And some of you are like, no, nope, I'm all about this one. I'm all about that one. There was something that really spoke to you. And the thing is, you had to do all the steps, even the hard ones. Kind of keep this in flow here. I want to talk about the elements. So, fire, air, water, and earth, they reveal how you would naturally approach these steps of transformation, how you awaken, how you learn, how you act, how you struggle, how you integrate and reseed. It's all there. So, if you know your chart, think about a strong element that you have and also the steps we just talked about. So, if you have a lot of fire, that will be Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. You engage all of those steps through inspiration, instinct, and boldness. You have to feel this spark. You have to feel this gut feeling that propels you forward. And you love learning, you love experimenting, and you act first and then you usually reflect. So the reflection step is not your favorite. Emotions are usually secondary unless things slow down. And when they slow down, you usually feel restless, but you always know that you have to do something different. You have a strong intuition. If you have a lot of air in your chart, this is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, you engage those steps through thought, dialogue, and perspective. You awaken to some kind of mental download or big question. You have to talk it out or journal it or research and get that data point. And action may stall for you if you overthink something or if you're looking for absolute clarity. This is the only way out because you're never going to have that. So you may think to yourself as you go through this cycle, it started with a question that I couldn't stop thinking about. And here I am. If you have a lot of water in your chart, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, you engage the cycle of growth through emotion and intuition and energetic shifts. Like you feel it in the air. You felt the wave coming before it came. And your transformation moves in cycles, often beginning in the unconscious realms. In the dream realms, or you felt the energy in something move. And because it moved, you woke up and you started looking around. Emotional safety is one of the things that are very key for you, but also one of the most challenging things because you are emotionally connected to what you're being asked to grow through. But as you work through change and someone says, why'd you do it? Why'd you do this or this, that? You can say, I couldn't explain it, but I just felt it. Everything felt different. I knew it was no longer for me and I had to take these steps. I had to feel uncomfortable to get to that next step. Now, if you have a lot of earth sign energy in your chart, that's Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, you engage that cycle of growth through practicality and structure and embodiment. Change often starts for you when it feels off in your routine or in your body or in your surroundings. Something just doesn't feel right anymore. And you often take tangible physical steps to integrate the change. And once you decide to commit, you're unstoppable. You're like, I'm not afraid to do the work. Saturn, come on, give me the lesson plan. We're going to rock this out. And when someone asks you why you did it, you'll say it just didn't feel sustainable anymore. I needed to change something and make it feel more real, have more value, more longevity to it, something that made sense, the rhythm, the details that fit my routine. Now, that's a great overview. Again, there's more information on the website, but I could not close this episode without considering the challenge. It's not all peaches and butterflies. Yep, I know the steps, I know my nature. Let's rock out this growth cycle because as I've mentioned or hinted to throughout this episode, there are going to be times where the growth cycle or the transits, the planets are going to activate something to ask you to step outside of your growth cycle. And that's where we find the biggest challenges. That's usually when you come and hang out with me for a little bit. We look at, different times and how you can approach this energy. Or, I mean, you don't have to hang out with me. Of course, there's lots of ways that you can engage this in a very positive way to manifest and work with the energy that you want to. But let's be honest, when change is triggering a part of your chart that goes against your elemental or energetic comfort zone, it feels destabilizing. It feels disoriented, and it feels like you're being asked to step into a role or skin or embodiment that is not you. But at the same time, this is when you embrace or engage deep growth, healing, and integration. They become very possible. So I just want to unpack this a little bit. As you're working with these steps, it's always good to know your nature, to understand who you are, which is something we love to do here at schedulingfate.com. And if you know your nature, I think a lot of people like to say in the astrology world, that gives you permission to be the most authentic version of yourself. Yep, hell yes, it does. But it doesn't change the world around you. Your most authentic version of yourself, realizing that you are a one of a kind individual, still has to co create with the society or the universe that you're in. Are you going to be a wave of change for that society? Maybe. More than likely, you exist, you have a purpose, but you still have to find a way to fit into this society and work with these changes in a way that makes sense for all sides, even if it's destabilizing. So if you know your nature and say, you know what, it's okay for me to not like to get into my feelings right here, or it's okay for me to have a hard time with this point in the step of change. And if you say I have permission to be not okay with this, but I still have to do it, that perspective definitely helps you. But I do want to give you a couple of examples of how this could feel, and hopefully you can overlay it on your chart. So let's say that you're experiencing a major transit that activates a house that doesn't feel natural to you. And a house, for those of you who are new to astrology, is an area that a planet and a sign rule over and watch over. So you feel this energy in this dominant topic of your life. So, say you're water sign dominant, you have a lot of watery energy in your chart, and you have a change or a transit or a growth cycle that hits that 10th house, which is career and your public life. The major discomfort that you're going to feel is being called into visibility, but you rather be behind closed doors. And the invitation that growth is giving you is to claim emotional leadership and to lead with compassion and let the world see your depth. So the way that you would reframe this, you don't like it, you're being asked to do it, but you would reframe it and say, what does public presence look like for someone with emotional integrity? And if you can answer that question, that triggers that first step, that spark, and you're going to go into learning. All right. And so another example, say you have a lot of earth heavy energy and you have change happening in the 12th house. So this is an area of your chart that's all about surrender and spirituality, things that are locked in and have been locked in for a long time. Discomfort you have is that you want to control and be certain about what's happening. But this area is all about letting go and trusting, having faith in the unseen. So the growth invitation is to soften to structure, trust your intuition, learn that value doesn't always equal productivity. And that's a big one. So the way that you would reframe this is what happens when I stop doing and I start listening, listening to within. All right, so another example. Let's say that you're air dominant and you're having a lot of change. And air dominant, those are the air signs, Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. And you have a lot of change happening in your fourth house. This area is a core angular area of your chart. It connects to your roots, your family, your emotions, and arguably every corner of your chart. The discomfort that you have is that you live in your mind. But now you're asked to feel, to nurture, to deal with the emotional roots that you have in this life, but also ancestral roots. And the invitation of growth is to drop into your body, to tend to that inner child work, to ground into your thoughts and to your emotional truth. So, how can you reframe this? How can you approach this? You would ask, how can I build my home inside of myself, not just the concept of one? It has to be more physical than logical. All right, one more for you. Say you are a fire focused energy. So this is Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, and you have a lot of transits hitting your sixth house. This is your routine, your humility, your service. It's connected to your overall health and wealth, your reputation, and your values by trine. The discomfort that you could be feeling is that you're used to bold vision, but now you're being asked to get into the grunt work, into the details. So the invitation of growth is to find spiritual discipline, to let a sacred routine fuel that passion. So how you would reframe this challenge that you have, it's going against your nature, is my fire doesn't need to dim inside of my routines. It's refined in the details. So, what I want to leave you with here is that when planets activate that foreign feeling, what they're really doing is balancing your chart. They're challenging your identity and your stories, and they're activating underused muscles and energetics inside of your psyche. And they're calling you to integrate missing elements. This is where astrology reflects the law of polarity and the law of rhythm. You're being pulled toward your whole self. Evolution doesn't come through comfort, it comes through contrast. So, as we leave today, I want to leave you with a couple of questions. I want you to think about where your life is asking for change right now. And is it in an area that's comfortable or challenging for you? What part of you is resisting it? What would it mean to lean in anyway? What hidden gifts might I uncover if I stop fighting it? I believe that these questions are going to take you into the heart of what this energetic shift is trying to integrate inside of your soul. Because when you are called to go outside of your natural comfort zone, to go through this growth cycle, you're not being told to abandon your natural flow, but to use it as a bridge to grow through this cycle. All right. So, again, if you go to schedulingfate.com, if you follow the links below this podcast, you're going to find some additional information along with everything that we talked about today. I definitely hope it helps you as you work through these paths. Of course, if you're looking for more resources, a way that you can go deeper with your personal natal chart at schedulingfate.com, you can check out the reports that we have, how your natal chart's talking to the transits. The Moon Gateway membership is also a great way to do that. You're going to get the calendar that you see me use with insights, but you also get discounts on those reports and on working with me. Another option, of course, you have is to work with me, which I love working with all of you. I love connecting with all of you on social media as well. So be sure to say hi. Let me know what step you're on in the growth cycle. And if you know it, what dominant energy you have in your chart. All right. I'll see you next time.